Dr. Leonard Huxley ruled the hospital like a god in a white coat. His confidence wasn't just apparent, it was weaponized. Every step he took through the sterile corridors of Westbridge Medical Center echoed authority. Nurses straightened when he passed. Junior doctors whispered his name like he was untouchable. And he believed it. To him, empathy was weakness. Medicine is science, not sympathy, he often said, flashing that smug half-smile that made everyone uneasy. But arrogance, like a virus, always finds its host's weak spot. The setup, arrogance on display. It was a busy Tuesday morning when the encounter happened. In room 214 sat Mr. Harold Gray, a soft-spoken middle-aged man with tired eyes and calloused hands. He was a mechanic, a man who fixed broken things. He came in complaining of chest pain and dizzy spells. His records showed minor heart issues, but nothing alarming. Dr. Huxley didn't even look up from the chart when he entered. "Mr. Gray," he said curtly, "still on that ridiculous herbal diet?" Harold smiled nervously. "It's helped me more than the pills did, document. I've been reading about how." "Reading?" Huxley interrupted with a chuckle. "You mean Google. Mr. Gray, do me a favor, leave the medicine to the professionals. You fix cars. I fix people." The nurses chuckled awkwardly, sensing his tone but too afraid to intervene. Harold lowered his eyes, humiliated. "Doctor," Harold murmured, "sometimes people know their own bodies better than charts do." Huxley snorted. "And sometimes people think ignorance is intuition." He signed the discharge papers with a flourish and left, smirking. Behind him, Harold's faint smile faded. The unforeseen crisis. 2 weeks later, the headlines hit every screen in the hospital cafeteria. Top surgeon Dr. Leonard Huxley involved in fatal crash, condition critical. The news spread like wildfire. Huxley had been driving home late after a long surgery. Police reported he swerved to avoid an oncoming truck and slammed into a guardrail. The impact shattered his ribs, crushed his leg, and punctured his lung. By the time paramedics pulled him out, his once precise hands, those that had saved hundreds, were trembling and broken. He spent 3 weeks in intensive care, drifting between pain and panic. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, the man who believed he was untouchable now couldn't even lift a spoon. When he was finally stable, the hospital board forced him into medical leave. His surgical license was temporarily suspended pending recovery assessments. But worse than the pain was the humiliation. The doctors he used to belittle now avoided him. His colleagues whispered. His so-called friends disappeared. For the first time, Leonard Huxley wasn't the smartest man in the room, he was the most pitted. The stranger who returned. It was during his painful rehabilitation therapy that fate twisted the knife. "Dr. Huxley," said the nurse one afternoon, "your new physical therapist will start with you today." "Fine," he grumbled. "Just get it over with." The door opened. In stepped Mr. Harold Gray. No white coat. No medical degree. But he was now certified as a licensed rehabilitation therapist specializing in muscular recovery, something he'd pursued after his own health scare. For a long, frozen second, neither spoke. "Mr. Gray." Huxley rasped, disbelief cutting through the morphine haze. Harold smiled faintly. "Good to see you again, doctor. Looks like we both needed some fixing after all." Huxley's pride burned hotter than his pain. You're my therapist." "That's right," Harold said evenly, pulling on latex gloves. "Don't worry, I know how this works. You fix cars, I fix people." The words hit like a mirror shattering. The therapy. At first, Huxley resisted every session. He complained, snapped, and mocked. But Harold never took the bait. He guided him through stretches, exercises, and breathing routines with quiet authority. Days turned into weeks. Huxley's body began to heal, but his ego remained fractured. One morning, Harold arrived early. Today, we try something new, he said. What, humiliation yoga? Huxley sneered. Harold ignored the jab. We're going to work on balance, something I think you've been missing long before the accident. The exercises were brutal. Each stretch, each breath, forced Huxley to confront not just pain, but reflection. For the first time in years, he listened instead of talked. During a break, Harold spoke quietly. You know, the day you mocked me, I almost didn't come back to this hospital. You made me feel like I didn't matter. But that humiliation pushed me to study, really study, how the body heals. Huxley stayed silent. His throat tightened. For the first time, he saw the man, not the patient. One stormy night, weeks later, alarms blared in Huxley's room. His heart monitor spiked. Nurses rushed in, but Harold, who had stayed late finishing paperwork, was already there. Huxley gasped, clutching his chest. Can't breathe, he wheezed. Harold didn't panic. He tilted the doctor's head, cleared his airway, and stabilized his breathing until emergency staff arrived. They later discovered a blood clot had formed, seconds away from killing him. Harold's quick action saved his life. When Huxley awoke, Harold was sitting beside the bed, arms folded. You should have died, Harold said softly. But I guess you still have something to learn. Huxley nodded weakly, eyes moist. Thank you. Harold looked at him for a long moment. Don't thank me yet. The revelation. A few days later, as Huxley continued recovering, something strange happened. He tried reaching Harold, but the hospital claimed there was no employee by that name currently assigned. He checked the staff list. Nothing. No record of Harold Gray ever working there. Confused, he called the rehab center Harold had supposedly come from, only to hear that the man had died, 2 months before Huxley's accident. The line went silent. Huxley's hands trembled. What are you saying? The receptionist hesitated. Mr. Harold Gray passed away in June. Heart failure. He was cremated here in Westbridge. Huxley dropped the phone. His mind spun. Who, then, had been treating him all those weeks? He turned toward the door, half expecting Harold to walk in. Instead, the lights flickered, and in the reflection of the dark hospital window, he thought he saw a faint, familiar smile. The reckoning. The night after that phone call, Dr. Leonard Huxley didn't sleep. He sat alone in his hospital bed, staring at the faint reflection of his own face in the dark window. Every sound, the distant footsteps of nurses, the beeping monitors, seemed to echo in slow, unnerving rhythm. He replayed every session, every word Harold Gray had said to him. We both needed some fixing. You still have something to learn. But now that he knew Harold was dead, those words took on a different weight. A supernatural one. The uneasy return. A week later, Huxley was discharged. His colleagues greeted him with awkward smiles, careful words. Some were polite, others, quietly resentful. The once feared surgeon now walked with a cane and an uncertainty that made everyone uncomfortable. At home, the silence was unbearable. His penthouse, once a symbol of success, now felt like a sterile tomb. He tried to distract himself with books and television, but something always brought him back to him. Harold Gray. The memory of those hands, steady, calm, alive. The warmth of his voice. How could a dead man have saved his life? Finally, his curiosity overtook his fear. He drove, slowly, painfully, to the local records office. The clerk, an older woman with sharp glasses, pulled out a dusty file. Harold Gray, she murmured. Died June 12, cause, heart failure. She slid the death certificate across the counter. Huxley's hands trembled as he read it. Same face. Same name. Same man. But there was something else. Scribbled in the next of kin section was a note. Body donated for medical research, Westbridge Medical Center. Huxley froze. That was his hospital. The disturbing discovery. The next morning, he returned to Westbridge, walking past the familiar marble lobby, feeling like a stranger in his own empire. He used his old ID badge, still active, and slipped into the restricted research wing. It smelled of chemicals and dust. Rows of cold storage drawers lined the wall. When he found the one labeled H. Gray, his heart began to pound. He pulled the drawer open. The bag inside was empty. Just a single tag remained, worn, yellowed by time, with one haunting detail written across it. Transferred to Special Case Unit, Room B7. The Special Case Unit hadn't existed when he worked there. Or so he thought. He followed the faded signs down a dim hallway to a locked door. He used a master key, something he'd kept from his time as chief surgeon, and the door clicked open. Inside, the lights flickered weakly. There were machines he didn't recognize, prototype scanners, strange medical instruments, and files. Dozens of them. Each labeled with a patient's name. Each stamped experimental. And among them, his own. Dr. Leonard Huxley, subject number 47. He flipped it open with shaking hands. Inside were printed therapy notes, session transcripts, and biometric data recorded during his recovery. But the signature at the bottom wasn't Harold Gray's. It was his own. The horrifying realization. As he stood there, his pulse racing, something buzzed behind him, a faint static hum. The lights flickered again. And then, faintly, a voice. Doctor. Huxley turned. Standing in the doorway was Harold Gray, or something that looked like him. The same calm face, same tired eyes, but there was something off. His skin was pale, too smooth, like porcelain. His movements slightly delayed, as if replaying from memory. You wanted to fix what you broke, the figure said softly. Now you have the chance. Huxley stumbled back. You're not real. You're. Harold tilted his head. You built this. Huxley's mind reeled. He remembered now, the early days of his research, when he'd been testing cognitive reconstruction technology, mapping patient memories into AI-assisted neural templates for rehabilitation therapy. It had been banned after a failed trial caused a mental collapse in one subject. He thought he'd destroyed all records. But apparently, he hadn't. You programmed me. But every night, patients recovering there tell the same story. Of a calm man with gentle hands who visits them during the night shift. No ID badge. No name tag. Just a soft smile. When asked who he is, they all give the same answer. He says he's here to help us heal. And in the security footage, if you look closely, you'll see him standing beside their beds, just before the camera flickers out. He mocked the patient who believed in healing. He built a machine to play God. But when karma came calling, it didn't just teach him humility, it took his humanity. Some say Harold was never a ghost, only a reflection of what Dr. Huxley created, and what he could never destroy. The arrogant doctor is gone. But the man who mocked healing, now haunts it. If you believe in second chances, or payback from beyond, like, comment, and subscribe. Because this story isn't over.